Imagine a world where common sense vanishes, where familiar points of reference dissolve and logic is no longer a foundation. A world in which fear, anxiety, and panic become the daily state of millions, shaping their actions, choices, and beliefs. This is not science fiction. This is a phenomenon psychologists and sociologists refer to as collective psychosis. In other words, it's a state of mass perceptual distortion, where groups of people lose the ability to think critically, become overwhelmed by emotions, and start living in an imposed, distorted version of reality. Collective psychosis is not just a string of strange behaviors by a crowd. It's a systemic shift in consciousness that affects entire societies. It can happen to any nation, in any era. And what's most disturbing, it may be happening right now, before our very eyes. Where it begins. How does this phenomenon arise? It starts with a sense of uncertainty, with a tension in the air. Economic crises, wars, pandemics, social instability, all these create fertile ground for psychological stress to accumulate. When anxiety becomes chronic, people begin searching for a way out. They crave meaning, an explanation for what's happening, even if it's based not on facts, but on fear and assumptions. The human brain prefers false certainty over having no explanation at all. At such moments, figures or systems emerge that offer simple answers: who's to blame, what must be done, who to trust, and what to fear. Reality becomes sharply divided: us vs them. Good vs evil, truth vs lies. Nuance disappears. Society stops thinking, it starts reacting. Emotions override reason, perception becomes warped, and the ability to question or have dialogue fades. A mass descent into an alternative reality begins. We've seen this before, many times. Medieval Europe is a classic example. The witch hunts swept across the continent. People believed that disease, famine, and disaster were caused by witches and sorcerers. Hundreds of thousands of innocent women, men, and children were accused of witchcraft and tortured or executed. Society was gripped by a mass delusion, where anyone could become a target with just a glance, a rumor, or strange behavior. Or take the 20th century. Consider how Germany, home to one of the most educated and cultured populations in Europe, witnessed and participated in the rise of a regime that led to the greatest tragedies in human history. It all began with humiliation, economic collapse, and a desperate need for simple answers. People believed in slogans, in leaders, in the image of an enemy. And it cost the world tens of millions of lives. Or the Soviet Union during the mass purges of the 1930s. Society was plunged into an atmosphere of total fear, where even the smallest deviation from party ideology was considered treason. People denounced neighbors, friends became enemies, families were torn apart. Logic was absent, yet the system continued to function like a machine with no brakes, driven by collective hysteria. All these episodes share one trait: a mass shift in perception, where ordinary thinking people became part of a monstrous mechanism of destruction. This isn't a historical anomaly, it's a recurring pattern. What makes crowds so vulnerable to mass delusion? A crowd erases individuality. In a group, people feel less responsible for their actions. They are more easily influenced and more likely to follow the majority. An emotional contagion occurs, feelings spread from one person to another like a virus. If the emotional climate is amplified by media, political figures, or other authorities, the impact grows exponentially. Gradually, individuals stop asking questions and simply accept the imposed narrative. Fear is a powerful catalyst. People pushed to the edge will willingly give up freedom, morality, and reason just to feel like they are on the right side. Modern forms. But should we think of collective psychosis as something that only happened in the past? Look at today's world, and you'll see the same logic. Society is fractured into opposing camps. Information is replaced by propaganda. People stop speaking to each other, they start yelling. Everyone is convinced of their own righteousness. and dissenters are automatically labeled as threats, misinformers, or dangerous elements. Technology has only accelerated this process. Social media, algorithms, and information bubbles create isolated echo chambers where people live in curated realities without questioning them. The more emotional the content, the wider its reach. Thought is replaced by reaction. The image of an enemy becomes essential. Without it, the structure collapses. Add to this a constant stream of alarming news, crises, and threats, and you have the perfect soil for a new wave of mass perceptual distortion. The problem is that collective psychosis doesn't just distort perception. It erodes the foundation of society. Trust disappears. People become afraid to speak. Conformity becomes the norm. Internal tension grows until it erupts into violence or collapse. But the most dangerous part is the disappearance of personal responsibility. Everyone believes this is what everyone does. This is how things are, this is right. People stop thinking for themselves. They act based on scripts, orders, or the mood of the crowd. This is the real threat. The further the process goes, the harder it becomes to stop. Crowds don't reflect. They move forward by inertia until they crash into a wall, social, economic, or spiritual catastrophe. Is there a way out? There's no easy answer. Collective psychosis can't be stopped from the outside. It doesn't respond to logic, statistics, or debate. It lives on the level of feelings, fears, and deep-rooted beliefs. The only thing that can stop it is the awakening of individual consciousness. Those who begin to sense that something is wrong. Those who retain the ability to question, to doubt, to reflect, to think independently. These people become nodes of resistance, not aggressive. Not fanatic, but quiet, internal, and real. The more such individuals exist, the weaker the collective distortion becomes. Yes, it takes courage. Because going against the crowd is always frightening. But history shows that it's precisely these individuals who eventually change the course of events. Collective psychosis is a mirror that society looks into during times of crisis. It reveals not just our fragility, but our deep unpreparedness for inner work. As long as we run from ourselves, we will remain vulnerable to any mass illusion.